Hey guys, Zach here, and today we're talking about Valby. Valby is one of those can-do-it-all kind of characters like Bunny or Viessa. Whether it's AoE farming, clearing instances, or bossing, Valby has a build that will work. And right now, because of her Transcendent mod, she's able to carry almost any team against Gluttony by soloing the orb mechanics throughout the fight. And with the changes to builds coming in Season 1, I only see Valby becoming an even more viable pick to bring to any encounter based off of her self-buff and her debuffs that she can put out all the time. So let's take a look into what Valby can bring to the table. So first things first, we're going to go over our Gluttony specific build. It does look funny if you're just taking a look at it and not really understanding why we made the choices we made. So we're going to go over that really quick. The first and foremost thing, if you're going against Gluttony as an ultimate Valby, is you're going to want the Spiral Tidal Wave. This changes your one ability to shoot a projectile straight forward. It has very good range. And the most important part is it attracts Gluttony's impurities. Those are the orbs that you see spawning out of the ground. Instead of having to shoot at them, you can literally just use your wand and you can just send them flying straight to the boss. This makes it so that you can solo that mechanic throughout the entire fight. The rest of the build is going to be very focused around health and cooldown, and being able to use that one ability pretty much non-stop throughout the fight. So let's go over some of the choices that we've made here. We went with Stim Accelerant and our HP mods so that we can survive getting hit if we stop paying attention for any second. I can typically live through a whole hit of whether it's his ranged attack or his up-close attack after he stands up. And this gives us a little bit of playroom when it comes to doing these match-made groups. Like I said, I always do these videos based off match-made groups. We have MP Collector so that if we do happen to run out of mana for whatever reason, we can switch to ad killing and get a bunch of our mana back very quickly. And then the rest is going to be devoted to cooldown. So we have Nimble Fingers, MP Conversion to get that big boost of cooldown. Multi-Talented is another great option to get more cooldown, and then we also have Focus on Singular and we have Focus on Toxic. Now that is probably what looks a little funny to you because this ability is dimension and non-attribute, but we already have our slots in here for the R slot, so we can't really run non-attribute and dimension to make it do more damage, but we're not really worried about whether or not the one ability actually does damage. We just want that extra cooldown. That's how we're getting up to the almost 75% cooldown just from our mods. The other things that we chose to run were anti-freeze solutions, so that if we do get hit by anything, we're not frozen in place. The chill resistance doesn't do anything because we're not adding any chill resistance to our build. Because we have enough health, we're not really worried about it. We just need to not mess up twice in a row. And then, of course, we're running Shot Focus to get more gun damage. Since the boss takes less ability damage anyway, this is more important to me that my guns do more damage, and the skill power modifier doesn't matter because we're not using abilities to do damage. Now let's go over the external components. I have once again decided to go with the Annihilation set because it is the best bossing set in the game. It has so much natural defense and max HP. It just makes it a very comfortable build to run when you're bossing. The skill duration doesn't really matter for us, but the firearm attack increase proportionate to the ratio of max HP lost is good, that if you take any damage, you are going to get more gun damage available to you. So that is very, very good. We went with as much MP recovery as possible. As you can see all throughout here, that's just the focus because we want to be able to spam our one ability anytime that we want to. We decided to go with the Materials Phase Reactor. I use this on a lot of builds because a lot of characters are dimension non-attribute. Enduring Legacy is just really great, and then we have the Gold Skill Cooldown. All of those things together actually bump us all the way up to almost 81% cooldown so that we're able to use that one just so frequently. And then the MP recovery modifiers and the max MP means we're just going to be able to do that without thinking. It's one less thing you have to think about during the fight, is worrying if you can get the ability off based off of how much MP you have because you have so much recovery. We do have 18k max HP. I would love if I could get that to 20k. It's just not in the cards for me. Max shield doesn't really matter. That does almost put us up to the 20k, effective health pool. And then 10k defense. This is 20% DR against physical stuff, so you don't have to worry about ads randomly shooting you and just like wiping you out. It doesn't really need to be higher because he is mostly chill. That's why we wanted to get the effective health pool up so that we didn't have to focus on putting any defense mods into the build. And then we're not really running chill resistance. I actually have no idea how we're at 11 and 13 there, but with the effective health pool, we're not super concerned about that kind of thing. Quick note about the Gluttony build. Don't be afraid to use one of your settings to save a build specifically for a boss that you do often. There really isn't a one build does everything option in this game unless you're playing an Enzo or a Eugen for support. If you need to slot a mod that doesn't match to give you that boost for gun damage or survivability or just a secondary stat to really solidify a build, that's okay. Whether you're learning the fight or you're just doing it for consistency's sake, it's a-okay. Nobody's going to know unless you make a post and throw it on the internet. Now we're going to talk about our mobbing and farming setup. I use Valby most of the time when playing with friends and doing farms because unlike Bunny, who needs to be getting lots of kills to keep her sprint up and actually be fun, Valby's kit just works, especially when you know where the mobs are going to spawn. You can set up your water to be everywhere, which is going to hit enemies as soon as they spawn in and debuff the bigger mobs that your 3 friends who only play Bunny can then burst down. Looking at the external components that we want to use for this set, I like to go with a Slayer set just to get a little bit of extra damage for here. Still though, we're going to have the focus for the MP recovery. The only difference is for our memory, we actually do want to go with the gold drop rate increase modifier and the firearm proficiency gain modifier. We're not really using our weapons in the Valby build, so it's better to run around with weapons that you're still leveling up to get your master rank up to increase your inventory size and your bank size and all that fun stuff. We went with the phase reactor for Greg's reverse fate to get a little bit more speed in our build. Also, we're just going to pop out Greg's if we do come up against a bigger mob that we don't kill right away. So we did go with the dimension skill power boost ratio at the bottom and the singular skill power boost for our 1 as well. For our descendant modules, pretty much if you're not doing the Gluttony boss, you should have supply moisture on. It's just her best in slot. It increases your everything. It's really good. Just go with supply moisture. Valby's one of the characters who kind of benefits from having a little bit of everything. So we increased her duration, her cooldown, and her range as much as we could, realistically. That's kind of the direction we went with the build. We went with battle stamina because for your everyday content, you don't need max HP. If you do find that you're having survivability issues, you can of course throw on just a straight up HP. That 8.8% skill duration isn't making a huge difference for you one way or the other. I just went with it to max out the build. And then for our last 2 slots, we did go with skill critical hit damage and skill critical hit rate. You can move these around however you want. If you just want to have big number go burr, you can switch your skill critical hit rate to the Frontlines mod instead to get more skill critical hit damage. Or if you find that you're not critting enough, you can switch out your skill critical hit damage for emergency measures to make sure you are critting more often. Your slot here doesn't really matter. You can kind of put it in whatever you want, but that's kind of the direction we went with the build. We're only sitting at 6k max HP. We have almost 2k max shield, and then your defense is only giving you that 10% damage reduction, but I think that's okay for running around mobbing. I mostly use her in group play, and then for printing out gold at the Valby Farm, which you don't need a ton of HP or defense for. We do have the skill power decently high, could be better. And then 60, almost 70% cooldown. The skill cost is a little bit higher. We could lower that if we change some mods around, but I think it's fine. And then school duration is up to 45 seconds. This is keeping your 3's water on the ground even longer. And then your max range is actually making those puddles bigger. So that is kind of the direction we went for this. quick note about your Valby using it to farm. You do not need a fully built out Valby in order to make this farm efficient for you. The only things that really matter are having cooldown, duration, and max range at a decent spot so that you can stay in your 3 or your V ability as much as possible. Things that are going to help make this the most efficient farm is going to be the item increased drop range, and then having your gold finder mod on your memory slot up as high as you can. Preferably both of those being gold so that you can stay in your same path, pick up all the gold, and get the max amount of gold as possible. The other thing I wanted to show was just how to increase your farming speed a little bit faster. As you can see at the top, we have about 8 seconds left. So whenever you are getting to this spot of the farm, in the last couple seconds, we're just going to have you run out of the mission and then run back in as soon as it finishes. And then your previous abilities will be able to start hitting the units more quickly, allowing you to start the farm back. If you do it a little bit more smoothly, your 3 ability will be able to hit everything, and so that you'll get back into actually farming even faster. Now we're going to talk about our every other boss builds. It's going to be very similar to the other builds that we've previously gone over because Valby is very greedy and wants a little bit of everything. Same thing, we're going to go with supply moisture. We did go with a defense and an HP mod. The blue ones I think are just the best to invest into because it's a decent amount of both stats. It's very inexpensive, especially if you're first starting off. They're just very good things to invest into. Shot focus we are using to increase our firearm attack, the skill power modifier. The reason we don't care as much about the skill power modifier for this every other day bossing build is because we're just trying to get the water on the ground so that we can actually get the increased crit damage to our weapons. So we don't really care how much damage they're doing. It's just passive damage. Anything extra is great, but it's not the focus of the build. We went with some cooldown mods and some power mods so that there was some extra damage going out, but then we focused on duration, a little bit of range with max shield for survivability, and then I went with skill concentration so that when it does crit, it does do a fair amount of damage, and then absolute curse so that when we do pull off a part of the boss, we'll remove any of the buffs on the boss. I think this is going to be more important later on, which is why I invested into it. It's not as important now, but I think it's just going to be a good thing to invest into. And that's going to be it for the video today. We've gone over everything that I like to use Valby for. I think she's one of the best all-around characters in the game, and I think farming for her and investing heavily into her kit is a great idea for everyone, as most of this game has to do with farming, and it breaks up the mindless bunny farming. My next 2 videos are going to be about Lepic for bossing with ability damage and gun damage, and Viessa, as she is my favorite character in the game and does not get the love she deserves. If you appreciated anything in this video, feel free to like it, as it really helps out my small channel, and if you want to keep seeing more content, go ahead and subscribe. Other than that, thank you for watching, and have a great rest of your day. Peace!